right, here we go. You can do it. Son of a bitch! What in the... What's going on, Canes fans? It looks like it's finally time to tackle those November games, and we kick it off with SMU, aka Mini U, led by former Canes offensive coordinator Rhett Lashley, a team that has multiple Miami transfers on the roster, and you might even recognize some other names: Rob Likens, Garen Justice, De'Eric King. All of them are members of the staff. But before we dive into the preview, do me a quick favor and make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. We do a fan call-in show every Friday night, and if you predict the correct score for this one, Miami versus SMU, you win $600. And the only two requirements are that you predict the score, obviously, call into the show, give those magic numbers, and that you're subscribed. Well, I really would have preferred to be undefeated going into this game, but I guess SMU is saying the same, 5-3 with losses to Baylor, TCU, and Wake Forest. And that Wake loss was by 1 point, 13-12. So you know that was a very tough pill to swallow for SMU fans. And this Mustangs team, in a lot of ways, has taken a step back from last season. But there's plenty of areas where they have improved, and they are definitely a dangerous team, not one that Miami can afford to overlook. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right out of the gate here that their pass defense is not great. As a matter of fact, they are allowing an average of 304 passing yards per game, which ranks out as the worst in the ACC. But get this, they lead the nation in forced turnovers and rank 10th in the country in average sacks per game. I know it's kind of a head scratcher, but this SMU defense is disruptive. And when it comes to stopping the run, they rank 3rd best in the ACC. So you see where I'm going with this, right? Miami cannot afford to abandon the run, and they shouldn't, and I would not expect them to, because we know the identity of this Miami offense. But we might need to see a Carson Beck masterclass in this one. The Canes could be forced to kick it up a notch or two in the passing game, and I think that they're going to have to. Now, as far as SMU's offense goes, it runs through quarterback Kevin Jennings, who is completing around 66% of his passes, and this guy is not afraid to take deep shots. Now, he's not racking up a ton of rushing yards, but he can absolutely extend the play with his legs if needed. And remember that whole mini U joke at the beginning? Yeah, their speed back is former Cane Chris Johnson, and their leading wide receiver, both in receptions and receiving yards, is former Cane Romello Brinson. Now, speaking on Miami for just a moment, it's the first game this team is playing outside of the state of Florida, which is pretty wild when you really think about it. And even though the Stanford game ended up being a beatdown in the end, many Canes fans are a bit concerned after the slow start and unimpressive first half. This particular game feels like one where you cannot afford to have a sluggish first half. If you do, it is not going to end well. And Mario Cristobal has said that Akeem Mesidor should be ready to play for this game after missing the Stanford matchup. But I wouldn't recommend that you hold your breath. At least I know that I'm not going to, but I am hopeful. But let's take a quick look at the history between these two teams. Miami and SMU have only played one time, and it was actually way back in 1965. The Mustangs won that game with a final score of 7-3. With that being said, it's time to even this series up. Let's also take a look at some average stats so far this season for both teams. And coming into this one, SMU is averaging 31 points per game. You have Miami at 34. Points allowed against them, SMU an average of 21, Miami 14. Yards gained per game, SMU 388, Miami 411. And these next two are where you're going to see a pretty big difference between these two teams. Yards allowed against them per game, SMU a whopping 399. And again, the majority of that is through the air. They're giving up a ton of passing yards. Miami, a very respectable 270. And this is not me playing favorites. I mean, just look at the numbers. They're right here in front of your face. Third down conversion percentage as well. SMU struggling on third downs. We're going to talk about that more here in just a minute. 36% and Miami 47%. I will also give you 3 keys to a victory for the Miami Hurricanes in this one, powered by the #1 sports app, Sleeper. So what is this app that Coop keeps yapping about? He's been talking about it the entire season so far. And I'm glad you asked, because it's a one-stop shop for all of your sports needs. Fantasy leagues? Check. The fastest score updates and news? Check. Win real money on picks contests using your sports knowledge? Yeah, buddy, that would also be a check. So click that link down in the description to download Sleeper today, and just make sure that you use code word COOP to activate a 100% deposit match up to $100 on your first deposit. And I've got some great news. If you go ahead and download it now, you get $20 for free with no deposit needed. So shout out again to Sleeper for sponsoring the video. Let's take a look at these keys to a victory. So coming in at #1 for Miami, the offensive line must neutralize SMU's pass rush. They need to give Beck time to throw the ball, because if they do, he should be able to pick apart a pass defense that is absolutely pitiful. The opportunities will be there, guaranteed, all afternoon if there's time in the pocket. #2, force SMU into 3rd and long situations. Their third down offense has been especially bad this season. They rank somewhere around 104th in the country. And lastly, ball security will be huge in this one. Miami must protect the football. Giving extra possessions to an offense that's been quite efficient could put Miami in a real bad spot. I mentioned how bad their pass defense is, and that's because it really is pretty bad. However, they do have 12 picks so far this season. So again, we continue to talk about it here. It's going to have to be a big-time game from Beck. Now, before we get to my pick and score prediction for this game, I would like to revisit the virtual season, where the final score in the CPU versus CPU game was Miami on top 23-7. SMU did have that lone touchdown in the third quarter, and that was it. So the virtual Canes really kind of dominated the Mustangs. Now, in the Coach Coop plays version, Miami did also win that game, 24-17 this time, however, and it was all about the run game for both sides. I mean, good for Miami at 144, but really bad for SMU when we talk about the impact of the run game, because they could only muster 10 yards on the ground. Let's also check in with the Pickle, who, believe it or not, is on a 2-game win streak after getting it right last week. Pickle predicts! Oh, Mr. All-Knowing Pickle. Will the Miami Hurricanes beat SMU this Saturday afternoon?
Cosmic Pickle Universe aligns with positivity.
Okay, so you say that's positive, as in positive yes that Miami will win?
I'd say so.
Okay. But he's been a little sassy the last couple videos, so he's not been real straight up with me, you know? And poor Max. My dog went with the Stanford upset last week, but let's give him an opportunity. Maybe, yeah. Hey, at halftime he was probably feeling pretty good, right? Let's see what he's got to say about SMU. So it's pretty cold here where I live, and he's just going to go ahead and make his pick. I was going to talk about his dino jammies. You guys show my boy Max some love with this dino jammies. But his pick is Miami. Did you learn from your mistakes last week? Did you learn? He wants more treats. He's not going to shake on it. Not 100% sold on it maybe, but Miami is in fact his pick. So as you can see, I'm tracking all of our picks this season, and the pickle is on a little bit of a streak. Max is trying to bounce back, and we still have, as in we, I mean me, the best record so far, but we'll see if that continues here on the tail end of the season. So let's get down to business. My pick and prediction for this game. The ESPN matchup predictor gives Miami a 70.1% chance to win this game, with SMU sitting at 29.9%. And the Canes are currently an 11.5 point favorite, with the over-under coming in at 50.5 points. This one, I have one score that I wrote down and just knew in my heart that this was the one. A lot of times you guys don't see the behind-the-scenes stuff. I'll have 10 or 12 scores written down, and I scribble through them, and I say, no, that's not it. This one, I wrote it down, and I said, you know what? Absolutely, that is the one. I've got Miami scoring 28 points. And the SMU Mustangs putting up 17. So I do have Miami coming out on top, winning by 11. Here's the deal. Every game from here on out is essentially a playoff game for Miami. You guys already know how I feel, however, about those November games. Given Mario's history, he's lost 8 of 12 since he's been at Miami. So that definitely does scare me, but it's time to see if Miami can change that narrative. But this game is an 11 a.m. Central kickoff. It's away, and you know how bad Lashley would like to win this game. And they do have the horses, get it, to run with Miami. I just hope that if their run defense is that solid, because everybody's hyping it up, and, you know, I've went back and watched their games. I hope that Miami can limit the turnovers if they are, in fact, forced to pass more. We can't find ourselves down and turning the ball over, given how well their run defense has been. So, again, you don't want Miami to be in a very uncomfortable situation like they were against Louisville. If they find themselves, you know, if Beck throws a couple of picks, SMU marches down the field and scores, Miami goes down 10 or 14, it could be a big-time uphill battle for the Canes. So there's a lot that could potentially go wrong in this game, but I do think that Miami is the better football team. I do believe that SMU has taken a bit of a step back this season. Not that they're a bad football team, but I got Miami coming out on top, and I'm pretty confident in this one. I'll be real with you. But does Miami cover the spread? They're capable of it, just like they're capable of it every single week. But I've got them right at it. I've got them right at 11, and they're 11.5 point favorites. That's just the way this kind of worked out this week. So remember, don't be shy. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. No Inside Insight show this week. That's 2 weeks in a row we've not had one, because I could not find a fan or content creator for SMU that was willing to show their face and come onto the channel and talk about the game. And that's not a shot at them. It's just the reality, right? I could not find anybody that wanted to talk about the game. But come on, let's have the comment section pop off. Like we said, every single game for the Canes here is so important. The margin for error is super thin, and they're going to need our energy, you know, both at the game for the people who can travel and just sending good vibes, you know, through the internet. So let's definitely talk about it, good or bad. Let it be known how you feel about this matchup. Remember, though, guys, we're all one big happy college football family, but at the end of the day, I got to say, it's always better when you get to rep the U. Coach Coop, peace out. I'll see y'all in the next one. You know what? That worked perfect because Miami, it was 7-7 in the first half, and then they dominated the second half. So that's exactly what just happened. Boom.
all over you now.
All right, time for the big grand finale. SMU.
Do you want to like wipe your
Heck
face
no.
off?
Heck no.